Antiques Roadshow theme tune just on acid, isn't it? It sounds like Baron Silas Greenback. It's the Metals.
Is their latest ration out of fashion?
It's not rapping though, it's more like kind of the Pet Shop Boys. Maybe a prog song with swearing in it. Like a good quality tikka masala.
Progcast UK. Well, hello and welcome to episode 10. Woo!
Hey.
We finally made it to 10. This was actually meant to be weekly and it turned out to be pretty much 6 monthly. This week we're looking at Mastodon's 2006 album, Blood Mountain. But is it a good mountain or a dud mountain? A should mountain or a could mountain? How about crud sprouting from a butt mud fountain? Find out in this week's Progcast. I really don't know if I was pushing with the butt mud.
Dude, Kanye West would be proud of that word rapping.
That was literally lyrical flow. If you heard that click there but didn't see it, that was me doing a ghetto thingamajig. Well, I don't know, I chose this album because Mastodon are a really big band. You hear a lot of people talking about them, and it's modern. It's kind of, I really felt like we should do something modern this week. I mean, what were your first impressions of this bad boy?
Okay, I'll tell you my first impression after having listened to the whole thing through, and that was, what the hell have I just listened to, right? It's very much of an onslaught of an album, and especially the fact that it is very crazy means that I was just, well, initially I just wanted to listen to it again, therefore I guess it's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think pretty much exactly what you said there was my first impression too. It's a relentless onslaught of music, isn't it? And I think it probably just take you a few goes to kind of dissect what's in there. But, you know, the first song, it just basically grabs you by the balls and demands your attention. It's just so fast-paced, energetic, and it is really heavy, isn't it, to be honest?
Well, I think the bits that on this album that work really well, that I really did like, were the hectic bits. The bits where they mess around with the time signatures, the heaviness of the riffs. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but we'll talk about that later.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think this is the thing, though. These guys are a really, really heavy band, and the thing what I would say is it's actually really impressive to stay very, very heavy while playing in those time signatures, with that level of syncopation. And that's what I love. It's like, God, I want to bang my head, but I can't. I know it's heavy, but it's so out of time. And like,
that's a very good point. And I did think this in terms of it's a rocky section, but they just give you a little glimpse of the rockiness, the good beat before they just change it up really quickly.
Yeah, I think
there's no way to get into it.
We've had repeated discussions about sort of bands that want to try and make their sound modern, and we did talk a while ago about Pendragon's Passion, and they put like metal parts in there to make it progressive. But those metal parts aren't actually that odd. Whereas the cool thing about this is actually the whole thing ties together. It's really heavy metal, but also in such odd time signatures, and it's just a fantastic thing to be able to pull that off.
Yeah, one thing I would say is that with this band, we're only going to really talk about the structure of the songs and how crazy the bits are. You have to say straight away that they are extremely proficient as musicians. They are, the music is so tight, and so the fact that it is so complicated and they still keep it together so well is testament to. I'll probably say the drumming on this is absolutely phenomenal.
I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable, isn't it? And I think we'll come on to a few points on that later, but this is kind of, to me, this heralds the modern sound for rock and metal, really. You know, I'd probably pair this in a sense with Tourniquet, because basically you've got a very, very progressive sound, but actually not in the way that the 70s had it. There's no Hammond organ in here. There's no synth solos. There's no space. It is basically a drum kit, a guitar, and a bassist, but it's progressive because of the way they play them.
It's two guitarists they've got, hasn't it?
Yeah, there's two guitarists. That's right, yeah. But, you know, in terms of the instruments there isn't any synth, there isn't many sound effects and stuff.
Well, I would argue they use a few vocal sound effects every once in a while.
That's right, yeah. But this is the other point. I mean, kind of saying that, it is stripped bare in that sense that it's not indulgent in terms of those things.
It reminds me of Rush in some places, especially the drumming style. And the Rush sound of it just being guitar, bass, drums, and vocals.
That's right. I mean, have you seen? I remember discussing the Rule Prog Britannia documentary, and they talked about like ELP being the guys that eventually killed prog off. I mean, Carl Palmer, really, really well-known drummer. He got to such a crazy level of indulgence where he had that hybrid synth/drum kit thing. And basically, what I love about Mastodon's drummer, Bran Daler, if you watch him live, it's basically a 3-piece kit. He's not using a huge thing. It's stripped back, and somehow it's absolutely relentless, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think I've seen some videos discussing with him, like his style. It's basically, I think he's a jazz type drummer, because you can hear all of those rolls, and it's not necessarily conventional metal, but it's kind of better to have raw talent rather than too much indulgence. I don't know what you think.
I think without this quality of drumming, a lot of the songs just wouldn't work. You can hear on several songs it's almost just going out. The timing, you just can't get it, and then somehow the drums will bring it back.
Yeah.
So I think that's the only way this band would ever work with that level of crazy drumming.
I mean, that's right. But to be fair, the guitarists have a great imagination for the way the songs work, and luckily they have someone who can pull it off. It's not like Blink-182 where they're carried along by Craig who riffs the crap.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up Blink-182.
Please don't.
Because Blink-182 on sampled Mastodon. No, they didn't. Blink-182 is obviously all about catchiness and hooks, and I would say that this band, I don't know whether consciously or that's just the kind of music they write, there are very, very few hooks.
Yeah, I mean that's certainly something that I have noticed. I would say maybe there's Colony of Birchmen is one song that's very syncopated that stands out for me because there's almost a chorus and a kind of melody you can latch onto there. But I completely understand what you're saying. It's hard to pick out a chorus amongst all the crazy drumming and guitar.
Yeah, occasionally. And the thing is, I have listened to this album quite a few times, and I slowly started getting into it, but every time it felt like I would get to the end of the album and I just couldn't remember any of the songs.
Yeah.
I could remember, for example, Crystal Skull. That's a really good belting tune. And although into the black hole, searching for crystal.
It's really constipated. That is a constipated approach to vocals.
Yeah, well, we joke about it, but it is memorable, and the song is a real heavy rocker, and it works. On some of it, I don't know, the lyrics are... Well, the lyrics are another thing, but the vocals themselves are they don't really lift the song very much.
No, that's right, yeah. I think the vocals are functional, but they certainly don't lift things too much. But they're very, very gruff and intense, basically. I would say the band sound and look like a bunch of angry, bearded lumberjacks. It's like sort of ZZ Top if they're uber pissed. ZZ Top after a weekend in the wilderness.
Jesus. And, the thing is, the vocals, maybe they work in terms of the subject matter that they sing about, but I couldn't really make head or tail of if this album had a theme or...
I don't really know what the songs are about, but they just sound angry and cool.
Well, it's about... I think it's a wooded theme, and obviously it's about a mountain, so there's nature in there somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, there are sort of these running themes of hunting and animals and things throughout Mastodon's albums, because you've got like Leviathan with a big whale thing on the front and the hunter and stuff. But I can't tell any sort of continuous thing. I mean, I'm listening to the guitar really, mostly.
Yeah, that's true. The other thing I would say with the guitar and the lack of hooks is they focus more on the rhythmic aspects of the songs. So they're really very good at changing up the time signatures without any warning, slipping back into another section very fluidly.
Yeah.
But they don't have many songs which are riff driven or vocal driven. Therefore, sometimes a song will just fly by and I'll go back and I think, I kind of enjoyed it, but I can't remember much about it.
I think that might well just come down to how many times you listen to it, because there are sort of noticeable... The songs usually start with a riff that maybe played a couple of times before the
onslaught of random
maelstrom of shredded syncope. But no, okay, that's fine. But, is prog a place for too much hook? I think we have discussed this before with... Maybe some of IQ stuff is quite pleasant because they use the right amount of hook. But at least this is really out there. It's going for it, isn't it?
Yeah, I will say that. I have to bring this up, but Blade Catcher, you knew this was going to come up. Oh man,
now that is where the vocal. Can you call that vocal? That is rich. I remember a friend saying he was coming home from uni one time with that playing, and he was like the garbled vocal sounds freaked him out.
It is a little bit. Well, I suppose you could look at it as sinister. To me, it just sounds like Donald Duck on an acid.
Yeah, I really don't know how to describe that. You have to hear that for yourself. But I suppose this kind of comes down to maybe a criticism you could have of this album. It is a little bit one pace, one approach, isn't it?
Yeah, I noticed that as well. There's a slight lack of diversity in some ways, but maybe that's just because what they do.
They do what they do, but what they do. Sorry, Ali, I hope you don't hear that.
What they're best at is the hectic sections, the mixing of the time signatures and the heaviness of the riffs, and so they kind of stick to it. And on other songs, for example, Sleeping Giant, that's kind of a more standard plodding song, and I just found that one boring because when you wedge that in between crazy songs, it just sounds like.
Yeah, I think it's very hard to keep a
that
dynamic when the mainstay of it is really fast and relentless. I thought that Pendulous Skin, the last song, was actually kind of refreshing for me because it's there's some acoustic guitar at the start. They tried to put some melody in there. It's trippy, but it doesn't really. It's not enough to make it a diverse album. And you're right. It's like it feels strange just being put at the end of a load of furious syncopated shredding.
Yeah, I thought that was a bit of a cop-out. It's the end of the album. Let's just stick this track on.
But it is a really good song, though. I think it's a very cool, creepy sounding song. It's interesting because I think the band did discuss when they released "Crack the Sky." They said we have basically done all of the intense, aggressive one type of sound, and they tried to get a bit more atmosphere on there, put some leads in. So they probably noticed the same things that we're saying themselves, and tried to diversify it a bit later.
We didn't actually mention this, but there's another terrible vocal effect on Circle of Sasquatch.
You sound so out. Circle of Sasquatch?
You can. The thing is,
this is you at a gig. Any requests? Excuse me, could you play Circle of Sasquatch, please?
Sasquatch, mate. It's Sasquatch. All right.
It's Sasquatch, isn't it?
Is it? That's not. Is that how you spell Sasquatch? Maybe I just.
I really don't know.
Anyway, I just noticed it's the fact that they're trying to make up for lack of vocal ideas with effects and.
Yeah.
robotic
Okay. No.
things.
Fine. I mean,
Yeah, that's my one big criticism of this album.
But I think I said to Ali that I actually think prog isn't really known for its vocal. I really don't think that's what people come to it for. The vocals are usually functional, and the journey is usually by the music, and I think that's fine on this album. What I would say is I have checked out a few live videos, and the vocals do have a tendency to become a bit awful.
How do you do that Donald Duck
Wasn't
effect
very
on live?
subtle, was it? A bit awful. But I guess it must absolutely hammer the vocal cords to be into the black hole. God, actually, that's quite good after a bit of old Tom.
It's not too bad. Maybe I should hire you as a vocalist.
Yeah, I mean, it's different from the 70s prog. It's indulgent, but in its own ways. It's not got expanses, it's not got synths, it's not got capes. What it does have is big beards, balls out rock, and I think this is kind of modern metal. This is where I hope to see things going, and I certainly think there's a lot of bands with this type of approach, creative approach to playing guitar, and it inspired me to want to play guitar more.
Well, I'd be interested in listening to some of their later stuff. I haven't actually, but if you said that they've expanded their sound a bit.
I think certainly Crack the Sky started to do that, and the latest album's a bit mixed in its opinion, in people's opinions, but yeah, I mean, they've produced a lot of albums. I would say this is the one to start with. This is the one that melted my face, and then try Crack the Sky. But I would definitely recommend this album. It really is pretty inspirational.
Yeah, I have to agree. Oh, brilliant.
Right, I actually can't get any closer to do that. Just end up pooing on an expensive mic.
Sake.
God. That is that curry that we had like 2 days ago.
Jesus. Is there any of that left, actually?